Hello, welcome to the Rally Point Live Fire exercise. My name is Carter, and I'm here today with
Jim Fuhs.
Jim Fuhs. Nice to meet you. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you currently do, and a bit about your military background.
Yeah, so I'm the president of Fuhsion Marketing. I do a remote live stream production. I've also worked with a company called Relatable, which is an interactive video software platform. I'm the affiliate manager for that, as well as I do digital marketing consulting, and I do volunteer work. I'm the vice commander of American Legion Post 29 in Marietta, and I'm also on the executive board of the Georgia Veterans Network. And we're a community veterans engagement board that's helping people find the right resources, veterans and their families. And then my background, I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1984, went to Parris Island, then went to Old Dominion University and ROTC, and was commissioned a lieutenant in 1989 in the Marine Corps, and spent about 21 years as an officer. Retired in 2009, deployed for the second Iraqi freedom. I don't know why I've got this.
You haven't even ate a wing yet.
I know, right? Well, hopefully that's going to help clear me out. And I was in financial management, contracting, and logistics, and served Okinawa, Hawaii, Florida, Camp Lejeune. Went to Monterey, got my master's degree. Been to Kuwait, Bahrain, Norway, Germany. I'm sure I'm forgetting some places. South Korea. So yeah, I got to see the world. It was a lot of fun. And so then I was actually retired in the North Carolina area, and then moved to Atlanta in 2018 when I got remarried. And so my wife and I live here in Marietta. Enjoy being here, and really have gotten more, into the veteran advocacy piece over these last couple of years, because I see the need for it, and I feel like I can finally start giving some time to do that.
All right, you've had a wonderful life so far.
Yeah.
Full of adventure.
Yep.
Okay, so why did you choose to join the service, specifically the Marine Corps? Don't forget to bite the wing.
All right, I'll bite the wing first.
Yeah.
So, when you think about it, if you want to be the best, you go with the best. And so the Marine Corps has always been the biggest challenge. I was a, athlete in high school, played soccer, was always given 100%. And then of course, back then we didn't have the internet, but you'd see the TV commercials, but we had a Marine recruiter at a high school, and he was playing this video. You can actually find it on YouTube. It's called Such as Regiments Hand Down Forever. And it's this really cool video. It goes back to like the early days in the Marine Corps. They have like all these old pictures and this narration. And you just see that, and it like really, gets you excited. And so I ended up signing up. It made my mom a little nervous. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks after the bombing of the barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. But I wanted to serve. My dad served; he was in the Navy. But I didn't want to just be on a ship all the time, so I went with the Marines. And I originally wanted to be in infantry. Didn't work out that way because of the way the Marine Corps picks our fields. But I did go to jump school, so that was a lot of fun, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. So, but I think it was more about pushing yourself to be the best. And I felt like of all the branches, the Marine Corps was the one that offered that. So that's why, part of the reason. And I didn't want to go to college right away. So, I wanted to have a vacation in Parris Island, South Carolina, get eaten by sand fleas. That would be more fun.
How has serving in the military impacted your life for where you are today?
It's definitely made a huge impact. And I'll get this next one here. Actually, I don't know how to that one. But I would say it was the self-discipline that it instilled in me. That, not to say that my parents didn't discipline me, but I think having the military discipline really made me learn to focus. I mean, right away after boot camp, I went to my MOS school in California at Camp Pendleton, and I was the honor grad. I was, a high school grad. I was competing against guys that had college, some that graduated, but it just had me focus on, these are the things you need to do to get things done. And then when I started college, it was like, I'd go to class. As soon as I would get done with class, I would do my homework. But guess what? Then I had all this time to have fun and party, because that's what you do in college. And I didn't have any problem with my grades, but I had a lot of friends that weren't in the military. Some of them, they were on double secret probation or got kicked out because they didn't have that self-discipline. And so I think that's where the military helped me, and when we think about processes and things of that nature, I think that's where getting and leadership building, because no matter whether you're enlisted or you're an officer, it's like you're always working to take the place of the person above you, and our responsibility as a leader is to train you to take my job. And I think that was a big part of that, and I think that's what's helped me after the Marine Corps, is when I'm working with companies or working on projects, seeing that dynamic, but also understanding that leadership in and of itself, everybody doesn't, work the same way. Like, I might yell at you and that might work for you, but then there's other people that they don't respond to that. And you also find that out as a parent. So I think it's learning that leadership, there is not one way that's the best way. Leadership is about figuring out what it takes to make the team work and understanding that different people have different ways that they work. And I think that's something the Marine Corps helped me do and help, and that's what helped me be successful, because one of the things that I found too that was important, and I think it started by being an enlisted Marine, was that to be a good leader, you need to be a good follower. And so, asking those people under you, hey, what could we be doing better? Taking their input, because they're the ones doing the job. And you want to give them the room to succeed. You don't want to micromanage. I've had bosses like that. I don't work well with that. And I think what's funny, I've been running my own business now for probably going on 12 years, and I don't know that I could ever work for anybody again. And I basically have become unemployable because I'm not going to put up with people's, poor leadership habits when I don't need to be a part of that anymore. And so I think that's the challenge when you get out of the Marine Corps, is like, well, what am I going to do next? Because you'll see people that are still like trying to wear the uniform, like, oh, I'm, so-and-so, and I did this, and especially in the civilian sector, they're like, well, I don't even know what that means. So I think, so for me, if I could do it all over again, I would. It definitely changed my life in a positive way, and I think, I think it's just something that we're fortunate that we have that opportunity in this country to do. Hope that answered your question.
What would you tell your younger self about life after the military?
That's a really good question. It's not going to be as easy as you think. I think that, to tell yourself that be prepared for change. I mean, I worked for 3 different companies before I started my own. And so don't feel, I think there's two things I've seen with people post-military where they struggle. Is if it's a young Marine, say young enlisted Marine that's maybe spent 4 years, like, oh, I'm gonna get out. They think that, it's that whole thing, if you think the grass is greener on the other side, and that's not always the case, because a lot of times, if you've been in the military 3 or 4 years, maybe that first year was spent training. That second year, you're getting your first job, and then you're just starting to get some experience. And you don't always get the experience in what you went to school for, because you might get deployed, you might get put on what we call like a secondary assignment, like you're having to pick up trash or things like that, especially these young guys. So do you really have something to offer a company other than you prove that you could make it successfully through a military service? So that's one thing, is like, and that's one decision I made because of the climate in our country. At the time I could have first got out as an officer, I decided to stay in. I didn't get commissioned thinking, oh, I'm gonna spend 20 years in the Marine Corps. And partially is because I wasn't doing originally what I wanted to do, which was infantry. I was doing like a desk job in a sense. So I think, but then taking the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna get experience in leadership and management and how to handle all different categories, money, logistics, getting to travel, getting variety. Because I think that's what ends up happening if you want to be successful outside of the military. That's what's it's gonna take for you to move up, if that's what you want to do. So definitely would tell myself, like, be prepared for change. But one of the things I struggled with when I first came out was that I felt like, okay, I'm not in the military anymore, so I'm not gonna like wear that badge of like, oh, I'm a Marine. And I mean, I am a Marine, but it's like I want people to know me for me and not for what I did. And so a lot of times I don't even always automatically tell people what I did, because it's kind of like I want them to get to know me first. I don't want them to be approaching me because they think like, oh, that guy's a retired lieutenant colonel, he can probably do this or that. I would rather they get to know me as a person first. So I think those are some of the things that I learned and I struggled with, but I finally learned to embrace it, because it's always going to be a part of me. I mean, it was 25 years of my life, and it's not gonna go away.
What do you hope for the future for yourself, your family, your career, or our country?
Get all. I'm sorry. All right. Say that again now. That was a deep question.
What do you hope for the future for yourself, your family, your career, or our country?
Well, for myself, just one of my daughters just had our first grandchild, so spending time with him is important. My son-in-law is in the Air Force, so they're out in California, so it's not as easy as we would like, but did get to see him. In fact, tomorrow is he'll be 4 months old, but and that's one of those things that maybe as he gets older, hoping to be there and help guide him, and maybe he'll join the service. It doesn't have to be the Marines, but the Air Force has the easier life, but we'll see what happens. For my family, my wife and I want to continue to stay in this area. We're going to call this home base, but do a lot more travel. And for our country, I'd like us to, one, take better care of veterans and their families. I see it with my daughter. She's a military spouse, and where they live is so expensive, she really can't work. She's got to stay at home, and they got to kind of figure it out, because childcare is so expensive in California. So I think we need to come up with better ways to help military spouses find gainful employment. With the remote world, there should be a lot more of that. And I know that it's being worked on. I just sometimes think it's not fast enough, because this was a problem when I was in 15 years ago. And for our country, I'd like us to have more of conversation and not this extremism on both sides. I think our, not to get political, but I think our political climate is just a mess, and I want to know what you're going to do for us, not, well, I think this person is this or that. It's like, well, that doesn't really tell me what you're going to do. And I think we've seen it with these candidates, that we really don't get a true picture of, what do they stand for, and what do they stand for when it comes to the military. I mean, like right now, we've got this stuff going on in the Middle East. We've got service members in harm's way right now, and something could happen any day, and I hate to see that. But we seem to be the ones that have taken on being the world's policemen, and so we'll see what happens with that.
What piece of advice would you have for someone? Be it if they want to run their own business, join the military, or anything in general.
Well, I think the most important thing is to have a plan. I think if you're thinking about the different branches of service, really do your research. Talk to people that have been in it. The recruiters are there to recruit. My brother was, he was going to go public affairs in the Army, but somehow he couldn't get public affairs right away, so he ended up being an air traffic controller. And it's one of those things is, be careful, because they'll tell you like, oh yeah, you're going to get to do this job or that job, and that's not always what happens. I had buddies in high school that thought they were going to be Green Berets, and they never got to go to the training, because it's like basically, it's like they have all these, they don't tell you the fine print. Well, you got to do this, 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 and this to get to that step. So I think, definitely doing your homework, having a plan. If you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, I think you have to realize that unless you have another source of income, that's it. And if your idea of starting a business is to get a loan, well, you better have a plan that you're not going to need that loan fairly quickly, or you're going to end up, you have no job, and now you got this bill you got to pay. And that's not going to do well for your credit. So I think sometimes if you can, say you have a job, they call it whatever you want to call it, gig economy, side hustle, start that thing you want to do on the side. Maybe you can find someone that's looking for like part-time help, and sure, you may not get paid a lot, but you'll get that experience, and you'll start to get more comfortable. And then maybe you can set aside some money, and then when you're ready to make that jump, you make that jump. There's a lot of good, free and low-cost resources. YouTube University, community colleges. There's a lot of small business centers that can help you plan. But I think from the business side, have a plan. Make sure it's something you want to do. I think that's the other thing. Some people say, oh, you just got to take a job. But I think if you don't like your job, it's going to become harder and harder, and it starts to affect your family and everyone else, because you get that, we call it attitude, and maybe, you just get angry and you're taking it out on people, and it's not because of them, it's because maybe you're not happy. I mean, because think how much time you spend at work as compared to with your family and friends. Mm. So I think that's where, if you can find something that you're passionate about and like, and then things are changing, technology, we've got AI, we've got, even what we're doing here, recording this podcast, none of us would have even thought that you could have done this 10 years ago. But technology is advancing so quickly. Take a look at what's changing that I might be interested in, that I could have fun doing.
And then, go ahead. What exactly is your business, and how can people reach out to you to get a hold of you?
If I should survive this win. So it's Fuhsion Marketing, and it's Fuhsion marketing. And so you can find that on the internet pretty easy, Google. It's also my website, fuhsionmarketing.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Jim Fuhs, which is probably one of the better ways to connect with me, because I tend to do a lot of B2B sort of stuff. I mean, I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. I've started to do TikTok a little bit. You can also find me on Amazon. I'm an Amazon influencer, and that's under dealcasters.shop. I do a lot of tech reviews of tech products, and we have a YouTube channel as well, Dealcasters. And so those are the best ways to reach me. I'd say LinkedIn is my favorite place to connect with people. I'm getting kind of tired of Facebook. I don't know, maybe a lot of people are. But and then, American Legion Post 29, we have our website there, and then the Georgia Veterans Network as well, if people are looking to learn more about the things we're doing. In fact, I want to thank Rally Point. They're helping us. I'm the co-chair of our 5K race, and we're having a bourbon tasting on October the 10th, and the Rally Point food truck will be serving the food at that, and they're also a sponsor of the race, which is November 9th at the Square. And so far we've raised for this year's race $56,000, and the money goes to the United Military Care that does these We Care fairs throughout the state, the Georgia National Guard Family Foundation, and then the shared initiative at the Shepherd Center, which helps these service members that have had some traumatic stuff go on. So those are the best ways to find me, and some of the things that I want to help people with.
All right. Well, thank you for your service again.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I will see you on the run, because I'll be working the food truck.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'll see you again then.
Awesome. Thanks.